My name is Larissa, and this is how I dismantled my family's empire with one spreadsheet after they handed my life's work to my unqualified brother. The boardroom smelled like leather and betrayal. My father wouldn't meet my eyes as he slid the paperwork across the mahogany table. It's already decided, Larissa. Marcus will take over as CEO effective immediately. My mother sat beside him, silent, examining her manicured nails like they were the most fascinating thing in the world. My younger brother, Marcus, 26 years old with barely 3 years of actual work experience, leaned back in his chair with a smile that didn't quite hide his discomfort. Or maybe that was just wishful thinking on my part. Have you ever worked yourself to the bone for someone else's dream, only to watch them hand it to someone who never even asked for it? Let me back up. I was 8 years old when my father opened Brennan Industrial Solutions in our garage. Just him, a welding torch, and a dream to build custom manufacturing equipment for small businesses. I was the kid who held the flashlight while he worked late into the night, who learned the difference between a MIG and TIG weld before I learned algebra. My mother managed the books on our kitchen table, and even Marcus, when he was old enough, would sweep the floors for allowance money. But I was the one who stayed. All through high school, while my friends were at parties and football games, I was in the workshop. I learned CAD design, project management, client relations. I got my mechanical engineering degree from state while working full-time, taking night classes for 4 years, because the business needed me during the day. No spring breaks in Cancun, no study abroad semester in Europe, just me, the workshop, and the constant hum of machinery that became the soundtrack to my 20s. Marcus took a different path. Business school at an expensive private university, paid for entirely by the profits I helped generate. Fraternity life, summer internships at his friends' father's companies, a semester in Barcelona. He graduated with honors and immediately took a job in Chicago, making 6 figures at a consulting firm. He'd visit maybe twice a year, usually around Christmas, and would spend dinners talking about his downtown apartment and the startup scene. I was genuinely happy for him. Really. I never resented that he got the traditional college experience I'd sacrificed. He was my little brother. I wanted him to succeed. Meanwhile, I transformed our father's garage operation into a multi-million-dollar business. By the time I was 32, we had 47 employees, 3 patents in my name, and contracts with manufacturers across 6 states. I worked 80, sometimes 90 hours a week. I took on the projects nobody else wanted, solved the problems that seemed impossible, and turned potential disasters into our biggest success stories. The Hoffman Project was my masterpiece. A local manufacturing company needed a custom assembly line that every major firm said couldn't be built within their budget and timeline. I spent 3 months designing it, personally oversaw the fabrication, and delivered it 2 weeks early and under budget. That single project put us on the map. Industry publications wrote articles about us. We went from a regional player to a national contender. My father cried when we cut the ribbon on our new facility. 50,000 square feet, state-of-the-art equipment, my designs turning into reality on a scale I'd only dreamed about. None of this happens without you, he told me that night, his arm around my shoulders as we stood in the empty building. You're the heart of this company, Larissa. Never forget that. I never forgot. I just didn't realize how little it mattered. The cracks started showing about a year ago. Marcus called my father out of the blue and mentioned he was thinking about leaving his consulting job. Too much travel, he said. Wanted to settle down, maybe start a family. My father lit up like Christmas morning. Come home, he said. Come work with us. I thought it was a great idea. Family business, right? Marcus had corporate experience, an MBA, connections in the business world I didn't have. I imagined us as partners, combining my technical expertise with his business acumen. I even helped create his position, brought him in as VP of Strategic Development with a generous salary and a real stake in the company's direction. The first month was fine. Marcus shadowed me, learned the operations, asked good questions. He was charming with clients, professional with the team. My parents beamed at family dinners, so proud to have both their children working together. The second month, things shifted. Marcus started scheduling meetings without including me. Client dinners I'd normally attend, strategic planning sessions about projects I was leading. When I asked about it, he'd say, "Oh, I thought you were too busy with the technical side. Didn't want to waste your time with the business stuff." The business stuff. As if I hadn't been managing P&L statements since he was in high school. Then came the suggestions. We should modernize our approach. We should leverage synergies with strategic partners. Everything was corporate buzzword soup, the kind of empty language that sounds impressive in PowerPoint presentations, but means nothing in an actual workshop where real people build real things. I pushed back when he proposed outsourcing our R&D department to cut costs. "That's our competitive advantage," I said in a meeting with our senior team. "We innovate in-house. That's literally what our clients pay us for." Marcus smiled patiently, like I was a child who didn't understand grown-up business. "I understand you're attached to the old way of doing things, Larissa. But if we want to scale, we need to think like a modern corporation, not a family workshop. The old way. The way that had grown us from a garage to a multi-million-dollar operation. I should have seen it coming. The private conversations between Marcus and our father that stopped when I entered the room. The way my mother started asking me about my life outside work and whether I'd thought about what comes next. The consultants Marcus brought in who spent weeks analyzing our operations and making recommendations that always seemed to diminish my role. But I was too busy actually running the company to notice I was being managed out of it. The meeting happened on a Tuesday morning in March. My father's assistant called me at 7 a.m. and asked me to come in early for an important discussion. I showed up in work clothes, steel-toed boots, and canvas pants because I had a site visit scheduled for later that morning. Everyone else was in suits. That should have been my first clue. My father cleared his throat 3 times before he started talking, which meant he was nervous. "Larissa, you know how much your mother and I appreciate everything you've done for this company. You've been instrumental in our growth." Instrumental, past tense. But we've been thinking about succession planning, about the future of Brennan Industrial Solutions. Marcus has brought a fresh perspective, new ideas about where we can take this company, and with his MBA and corporate experience. I watched my life's work get reassigned to my little brother in real time. Chief Executive Officer, primary decision maker. My name would stay on the patents, of course. I'd remain as Chief Technical Officer, a title that sounded impressive but came with a redefined role that was basically, do what Marcus says. "We think this is what's best for the family and the business," my mother added quietly. "Marcus can take us to the next level." The next level. We'd grown 340% in 5 years under my leadership. But sure, we needed to get to the next level. I looked at Marcus. He had the decency to look uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable enough to refuse. "I hope we can work together," he said. "Your technical expertise is invaluable." Invaluable, not essential, not irreplaceable. Invaluable, which apparently meant valuable enough to keep around, but not valuable enough to actually lead. I could have screamed, I could have cried, I could have thrown the paperwork in their faces and walked out. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. I smiled. "Congratulations, Marcus," I said, my voice steady. "I'm sure you'll do great." I left the boardroom, went to my office, and closed the door. Then I sat at my desk and stared at the wall for 20 minutes, my mind completely blank. Not angry, not sad, just empty. Then the emptiness filled with clarity. I'd given this company everything. 80-hour weeks, my 20s. Relationships that failed because I was always at work. My health, probably, considering I couldn't remember the last time I'd had a physical or taken a vacation longer than 3 days. And in one meeting, it had been given to someone else because he had the right degree and the right gender, and, let's be honest, because he was the son my father had always imagined running his company. I pulled up my computer and started looking at files. Project files, Financial records, client contracts, emails, everything I'd accumulated over 14 years of running this company. I didn't do anything with them yet. I just looked, and I started to understand exactly how much power I actually had. See, there's a difference between holding a title and running a company. Marcus had the title now, but I had the knowledge. I had the relationships. I had the passwords to systems only I knew how to operate. I had the trust of every single person on our production floor, every project manager, every engineer. I had built this place brick by brick, and I knew where every brick was placed. I went home that night and did something I hadn't done in years. I went to bed at 8 p.m., set my alarm for 7 a.m., slept for 11 hours straight. The next morning, I came in at 9 instead of 6:30. I made coffee. I checked my email. I responded to the urgent things. Then I went down to the workshop floor, chatted with the crew about their weekends, looked over a few projects, and left at 5 p.m. Marcus stuck his head in my office around 3. "Hey, can you look at the Weaver contract? I think we need to revise the timeline." "Sure," I said. "I'll take a look tomorrow." His eyebrows went up slightly. The old Larissa would have dropped everything and handled it immediately. "It's kind of urgent," he pressed. "Then you should probably handle it," I said pleasantly. "You're the CEO now. I'm sure you got this." I watched him process this, the faint confusion crossing his face. "Right?" he said. "Sure, I just thought since you have the relationship with Weaver, you should probably build your own relationship with them," I suggested. "Fresh perspective and all that." He left looking uncertain. I went back to my actual job, the technical work I'd been hired to do in the new org chart. This became my pattern, 9 to 5, sometimes 9 to 4:30. I did my job, the job they'd redefined for me, and nothing more. No staying late to fix other people's mistakes. No coming in early to prep for meetings that weren't on my calendar. No checking email at 10 p.m. or working through weekends. I became an employee instead of an owner, and the difference was staggering. The first crisis hit 3 weeks in. A major client project was running behind schedule because the specifications kept changing. The project manager, Derek, was freaking out. He'd always come to me before with problems like this, and I'd always fix them, usually by working 20-hour days and personally overseeing every detail. He knocked on my office door at 7 p.m. on a Thursday. I was packing up my bag to leave. "Larissa, thank God you're still here. The Morrison project is a disaster. The client is threatening to pull out, and Marcus told me to figure it out, but I don't even know where to start, and have you talked to Marcus about this?" I interrupted gently. "He's already gone for the day. Look, I know things are different now, but this is an emergency. Can you just—" "Derek," I said, and I meant this kindly because Derek was good at his job, and none of this was his fault. "Marcus is the CEO. These are the kinds of decisions CEOs make. If he's not available, leave him a message, but I'm technical staff now. This isn't my department." I could see the panic in his eyes. "But you always—" "I know, but things are different now." I gave him a sympathetic smile. "I'm sure Marcus will handle it first thing tomorrow." I went home. I did not check my email. I did not answer my phone when Derek called me 3 times. The Morrison project imploded. The client pulled out, citing poor project management and lack of leadership responsiveness. We ate a $400,000 loss and took a significant hit to our reputation. Marcus scheduled an emergency meeting. "What happened?" he demanded, looking at Derek, at me, at the whole senior team. "How did we let this fall apart?" I could have said a lot of things. I could have pointed out that I'd managed the Morrison account for 4 years without a single problem. I could have mentioned that the client specifically asked for me 3 times during the crisis and was told I was no longer in that capacity. I could have explained that successful project management requires relationship building and trust, things you can't just inherit with a title. Instead, I said, "I'm not sure. I'm focused on the technical side now." I watched Marcus absorb this. He'd been CEO for exactly 4 weeks, and he'd just lost us nearly $500,000. My father called me that evening. "Larissa, sweetheart, what happened with Morrison?" "You'd have to ask Marcus, Dad. He's running things now." A long pause. "You've been managing that account for years." "I was, but my role has changed. I'm just the technical officer now, remember?" Another pause. Longer this time. "You couldn't have stepped in? Just this once?" And there it was. The expectation that I'd keep doing all the work while someone else got all the authority. That I'd kill myself to save projects and manage disasters while Marcus collected the CEO paycheck and the praise. "Dad," I said quietly, "you can't have it both ways. Either I'm senior leadership and you trust me to make decisions, or I'm technical staff who does what I'm told within my defined role. You chose the second option, so that's what I'm doing." I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. "That's not fair, Larissa." "You're right," I said. "It's not." I hung up. The thing about running a company is that it's not actually about the title or the corner office or who signs the paperwork. It's about the thousand invisible threads that hold everything together, the relationships with clients who trust you personally, the knowledge of which suppliers are reliable and which ones need constant oversight, the understanding of how each employee works best, who needs encouragement and who needs direct orders, the instinct for when a project is going off the rails before it shows up in any report. I'd spent 14 years weaving those threads, and now I was systematically letting them go. I stopped attending client dinners unless specifically required. When clients called asking for me, I politely redirected them to Marcus. When employees came to me with problems, I'd listen sympathetically and then suggest they take it up with the CEO. I did excellent work within my newly defined technical role, but I did not do one single thing beyond it. To an outside observer, I probably looked like a disgruntled employee quietly quitting. But I wasn't quiet quitting. I was loudly working to rule. The second crisis was the Hoffman Company, the client whose project had made our reputation. They called wanting to expand their operation, a project that would easily be worth $2 million. It was exactly the kind of innovative, complex work we specialized in. It was also the kind of work that required someone who understood both the technical possibilities and the client's specific needs. Someone who could bridge engineering and relationship management. Someone like me. Marcus took the meeting himself. He brought in one of our junior engineers, a smart kid named Tommy who was good with CAD, but had never led a client project. They put together a proposal based on our standard templates, professional and polished and completely generic. Hoffman called me directly 2 days later. "Larissa, what the hell was that? The proposal Marcus sent us looks like something his computer generated. Where's the innovation? Where's the custom solution we talked about?" "I'm sorry you're disappointed," I said carefully, "but Marcus is heading up business development now. I'm sure if you share your concerns with him, I'm sharing them with you. We want you on this project. You know our operation. You understand what we need." "I appreciate that, but I'm not in that role anymore. I'm purely technical now." A long, frustrated silence. "So you're telling me the person who built the first system can't work on the expansion?" "I'm telling you that's a question for our CEO. Hoffman didn't sign with us. They went with Morrison Industrial, our biggest competitor. The same company that had hired away 2 of our engineers the previous year. Engineers who'd left because they were tired of the corporate restructuring Marcus kept implementing. We lost the project. Marcus was furious, but also confused. "They specifically asked for you?" he said to me in yet another emergency meeting. "Why didn't you make it work?" "You're the CEO," I replied simply. "Client relationships are your responsibility now." My mother started calling weekly. "Honey, your father is really stressed. Maybe you could just help Marcus get up to speed, just for a few months until he gets the hang of things." "Mom, he has an MBA from one of the best business schools in the country. I'm sure he'll figure it out." "But you know the business so much better." "Then maybe I should have been CEO." Silence on the other end. Then quietly, That's not fair. I was really tired of being told what wasn't fair. 6 months in, we were hemorrhaging money and reputation. 3 major clients had left. Project delays were constant. Employee morale was in the toilet, and we'd lost 8 key people, including Derek, who got a better offer from a competitor and couldn't leave fast enough. Marcus was working 70-hour weeks trying to plug holes, and the irony wasn't lost on me. Welcome to my old life, little brother. The board of directors, which consisted of my parents and 3 outside investors we'd brought in during our expansion, called a meeting. I wasn't invited initially, which told me everything I needed to know about what they were discussing. But one of the board members, Patricia Chen, called me personally. Larissa, we need you at this meeting. I'm just the CTO, I said. Surely Marcus can handle it. Cut the crap, Patricia said bluntly. She'd invested in us 7 years ago after I'd personally pitched her on our vision, and we'd developed a real friendship. We all know what's happening here, and we need to talk about it. Tomorrow 10 a.m., and you better show up. I showed up. The boardroom was tense. Marcus looked exhausted. My father looked old, and my mother looked like she'd been crying. The other board members looked pissed. Patricia didn't waste time. Gentlemen, we have a problem. Since Marcus took over as CEO 6 months ago, we've lost 23% of our revenue, 6 major clients, and several key employees. Our reputation is taking hits we might not recover from. Projects are late and over budget. And unless something changes dramatically, we're looking at operating at a loss for the first time in 15 years. She slid a folder across the table to my father. These are the numbers. They don't lie. My father opened the folder, and I watched his face go gray. Now, Patricia continued, we need to discuss leadership structure and whether the current arrangement is serving the company's best interests. Marcus straightened. I know there have been growing pains, but these aren't growing pains. Another board member, James, interrupted. This is a company in crisis, and I think we all know why. All eyes turned to me. Larissa, Patricia said, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I want a direct answer. Can this company succeed with the current leadership structure? I looked at Marcus, who was staring at me with something between hope and resentment. I looked at my parents, both of them seeming to age before my eyes. I looked at the board members who trusted me with their money and their faith in our vision. No, I said simply. My father closed his eyes. And why not? Patricia pressed. Because you can't run a specialized manufacturing company like a generic corporation. Because relationships matter more than spreadsheets in our industry. Because innovation requires deep technical knowledge and trust, neither of which can be delegated or transferred with a title. Because leadership is earned through competence and respect, not assigned through family preference. I took a breath. And because I built this company from nothing, and I know every single aspect of how it works, and no amount of MBA coursework can replace 14 years of experience. That's not entirely fair, Marcus said, his voice tight. I've been working my ass off. I know you have, I said, and I meant it. But working hard isn't enough. This isn't about effort, Marcus. It's about fit. You're a good consultant. You might be a great CEO somewhere else. But this company needs someone who lives and breathes custom manufacturing, who can design a system and then sell it, and then build it and then service it. That's not you. And it's you, my mother said quietly. It wasn't a question. Yes, I said, it's me. It's always been me. Patricia leaned forward. So what do you want, Larissa? What would it take for you to step back into leadership? This was the moment. The entire room was watching me. I could have been gracious. I could have made it easy for everyone. But I'd learned something over the past 6 months. Making things easy for other people had cost me everything. I want full operational control as CEO, I said. Final decision-making authority on all strategic and operational matters. Marcus can stay on as VP of Corporate Development if he wants, but he reports to me. not the other way around. I want my salary and equity stake to reflect my actual value to this company. And I want it in writing, signed by the board, that my position cannot be reassigned without board approval, not just a family decision. My father looked like I'd slapped him. Larissa, sweetheart, those are my terms. I said, take them or leave them. But if you leave them, I'm walking away. I'll start my own firm, and I'll take my patents and my reputation with me. And we'll see how Brennan Industrial Solutions does competing against me instead of being led by me. It wasn't a bluff. I'd already met with 3 attorneys and 2 potential investors. I'd been preparing for this possibility since the day they'd handed my company to Marcus. The room went silent. Finally, Patricia started laughing. About damn time you grew a spine about this. She looked at my father. Robert, I've been telling you for years that Larissa should be running this company. You handed it to your son because of outdated ideas about gender and family dynamics, and it nearly destroyed everything she built. Fix it, or we're all going to watch this company die. The other board members nodded. My father looked at my mother, who looked at Marcus, who looked at me. I'm sorry, Marcus said quietly. I thought I could do it. I thought I was ready. You weren't, I said, not unkindly. But that's not your fault. This was never the right role for you. He nodded slowly. I'll resign. Take a position back in corporate development. I don't need to be CEO. Thank you, I said. My father's voice was rough when he finally spoke. You're right. About all of it. I made a mistake. He looked at me, really looked at me, maybe for the first time in months. I made a terrible mistake, and I'm sorry. I know, I said. 2 weeks later, I was officially reinstated as CEO. The paperwork was ironclad. Patricia made sure of that. My salary increased by 40%, and my equity stake was adjusted to reflect my actual contribution to the company's value. Marcus stayed on as VP of Corporate Development, handling partnerships and expansion opportunities, work he was actually good at. Our relationship was awkward for a while, but he eventually thanked me for being honest with the board. I was drowning, he admitted one day over coffee. Too proud to ask for help, too stubborn to admit I was in over my head. I know the feeling, I said. The real work was rebuilding. I spent the next 3 months personally calling every client we'd lost, every employee who'd left. Some came back, some didn't. But word spread quickly in our industry. Larissa Brennan was back in charge. The projects came back, the innovations came back, the reputation came back. Within a year, we'd not only recovered our lost revenue, but exceeded it. I hired a COO to handle day-to-day operations, so I could focus on strategy and innovation. I implemented better work-life balance policies because I'd learned the hard way that burning out your best people, even if that person is yourself, is a recipe for disaster. I also started taking Sundays off. Just 1 day a week where I didn't check email, didn't think about projects, didn't do anything work-related. It felt revolutionary. My parents and I had several long, difficult conversations. My father admitted he'd always seen the company as something to pass to his son, that he'd never questioned that assumption until it nearly cost him everything. My mother confessed she'd been complicit in diminishing me, always seeing me as the responsible one who'd understand and sacrifice for family. You raised me to work hard and be excellent, I told them. But you didn't raise me to be invisible. Things are better now. Not perfect, but better. Marcus and I have found our rhythm as siblings and colleagues. My parents have learned to respect boundaries. The company is thriving. But the biggest change is in me. I learned that loyalty without respect is just exploitation. That sacrifice without recognition is just martyrdom. That being good at your job doesn't mean you have to accept being treated poorly. I learned that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to stop holding things together for people who don't appreciate the weight you're carrying. And I learned that the most powerful thing you can say isn't, I quit, it's, I'm worth more than this, and I'm going to prove it. My name is Larissa Brennan, and I'm the CEO of a multi-million-dollar manufacturing company. Not because someone handed it to me, but because I built it, lost it, and then fought like hell to take it back. And that makes all the difference. Because the best revenge isn't destroying what was taken from you. It's proving you were the only one who could make it work in the first place.